This is time for free your mind and your soul. Yo, half the story has never been told. Ladies, you got to demand what you want, and what we want is respect, right? Yo, just sit up on the track, I know so you have to deal with it right. Freedom every time for the sisters. Check this. Watch this.
And here we go now. Listen, if I'm boom boom rule, I be the ruler like Slick Rick. Hit with this quick witted Adidas wearing chick. Papa got a brand new bag. Mama got a brand new Jag. Or go tag. I ain't no old hag. I represent not only in the kitchen, in the bedroom, but also in the boardroom. So give me more room. Deny my opportunity. You in jeopardy. Yo, set me free. Don't hinder me. Let me be.
I'm fighting for freedom. I got the heat in case you need them. Straight soldier. Ain't nobody told ya. Hold up on them lies. I know your games and your plans.
Hello everybody, welcome to another Book Slam Extra. I'm your host Jules. I hope everyone is doing well and had a fabulous week. I have had a great week, thank you very much for asking. And it's an absolute pleasure being here with you tonight. And I'm really looking forward to the conversations that we're going to have tonight. We've got some guest authors, which I'm very excited about speaking to as well. And the discussion tonight is going to centre around emotions. So not just writing what an emotion is, but how do writers make readers get the feels? Doesn't matter whether it's poetry, prose, or short stories, long stories, epic novels. In order for our readers to be able to engage, it's really important that we actually can feel their emotions along the way. And I think that it's a really important aspect of writing and a skill. Some authors struggle with it. So if you're an author and you're finding it difficult, tune in, come and join in the chat, come and join in the live stream. You can write live comments on the YouTube as well. It would be lovely to have you. It'd be lovely to hear from you. And yeah, let's get started. So my name is Jules. I'm your host and I am an author. I write both adult and children's fiction. My adult one is dark fantasy with sword and sorcery, Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of feel to it, a bit science fiction, science fantasy as well. And it's centered very much on trauma and mental health and recovery from that. So with a dark fantasy backdrop. And my children's books are fantasy as well, but they are centered on wellness and the use of worry monsters, which is the thing that if you work in schools or if you know anyone who has children who goes to school, a worry monster is something that schools use in order to help children feel better because they can talk to it and it won't share any of the secrets. And I also run a Discord, so this is specifically for authors and writers and also beta readers. And it's a specific place just for that group of people to share ideas and share thoughts and provide support and be able to message each other and just to build a community. It's still in its infancy, but we are growing steadily. Guest authors on here are always invited. So if you're a guest author on here today, you will receive an invitation at some point in the next 24 hours by one of our awesome team. I also publish as well. So I run an independent publishing company called Danu Books, which is centered around authors who have a unique voice. So if you're interested in publishing your book and you've been struggling to get it somewhere else, have a look. We might be what you're looking for. And without further ado, I'm actually going to invite my wonderful co-host on because I know he's waiting in the wings. Welcome, Adam.
Hello.
Let me change the camera. There we go. It's better. How are you?
Hi, I'm wonderful. Thanks for asking.
Did you have a nice week?
Yeah. Off to a good start. We're plugging away at it. I've done some writing, so I'm pretty happy about that this week. Yeah, so that's good.
That's really good. Yeah,
so
it's really
good. Oh, sorry. Should I introduce myself? Hi, I'm Adam Andrews. I'm the author of this new book, The Mantis Variant. It is dark fantasy, dystopian, messed up future kind of stuff. I'm very excited. It just came out, and I've already finished the sequel. I'm in the process of editing that. So that's available, and that is to build up anticipation and let people know that I'm a writer, because Jules is releasing my exciting, gigantic, huge 600-page queer norm fantasy epic novel that deals with human sexuality as its main theme, and it centers around character development and queer characters and a celebration of kinks. And it's definitely for mature readers, and it's a unique voice like Jules was talking about. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. And that'll be out probably 2024 sometime. And we're looking forward to that. We're working together on a number of things, and that release is going to be so fun. That's going to be so wonderful. So yeah, that's who I am. Yay.
And we've also doing some other things as well, aren't we? So you and I are working in collaboration on a book a little bit outside of our genre. It's an interesting journey. You've been a much better writer at it at the moment, but I've done quite a lot of research because I have to get my.
You've done research and I've done some creation. Yeah, no. I think it's going to flow like that. I think that when you get a spark of inspiration, you'll write several sections like we've talked about. Yeah, it's all there.
Absolutely. It's trying to get myself into the head of the character that I'm writing. And it's a character type that I've never written before. So it's I'm having to do quite a significant amount of research on real life cases so that I can have an understanding as to how it starts without giving too much away, the build up and the potential outcome for it as well. So yeah, it's a daunting task, but fascinating nonetheless. And we've also got a competition, haven't we, Adam? Would you like to share?
We do, yes. Yeah, we've got a competition going. It's Danu Publishing's first ever writing authors competition where we're celebrating short stories and poetry. We're asking for 1,000 words or less. So it can be as short as a haiku or up to 1,000 words of a short story. And we want 3 items to be represented in your work, however your creativity can present them. We want a magnifying glass, a wolf, and the outer rings of Saturn. We want you to put those 3 things: magnifying glass, wolf, outer rings of Saturn. Not to mean exactly specifically what those things are. We want you to be celebrated with your creativity. Come up with what they can mean in completely different ways. As we've mentioned before, they can be the names of cocktails on a menu. They can be references to space travel if you're writing some sort of sci-fi thing. They can be emotions if you're presenting a poem. Be creative. Present these things, and then the winners of this competition are going to be published in a compiled volume where all the stories and poems and everything will have those 3 themes together: the wolf, the magnifying glass, and the outer rings of Saturn. And with that published volume, once we release it, we're going to donate 15% of the proceeds or sales to the Trevor Project, which is a nonprofit that focuses on helping prevent suicide in particularly the queer LGBTQAI plus community. And so we love them, we support them, and we've already made some donations to them. And so this book, 15% of it is going to go to them also. So we're really excited about the competition. It's a $10 submission fee. We have a flyer with a little QR code, so it's easy to scan and sign up. And then there's the competition right there. That's where you can enter, send your writing. And is that all the details on the?
That is. So I'm just going to put up on the screen the QR code.
Okay.
She says, trying to find it. Okay, I can't find the QR code right this second. But what I will do is I will get it and I'll put it up on the screen.
No worries. Yep.
And so yeah, absolutely. Submit, because we want to donate loads of money to the Trevor Project. It's such a worthwhile cause. We fully support everything that they do. And this is not this is not sponsored by them or any other group. So this is because we feel very strongly about the community and and fair society and equality, and they deserve better.
Yeah.
So that's very. Oh. Sorry, I think I clicked the button.
Sorry, I had a little glitch on my.
Yeah, it's fine. I had a glitch.
Technical difficulties. Okay, we're back. Okay, we're good.
Okay, that's it.
Last thing about the contest, it's open right now for submissions. We don't have a close date on submissions because it's our first time. It's our first contest. We want to give us the competitors as much time as possible to submit works to us. So we're leaving it wide open right now. And once we're prepared, we will start start sharing that, the results and what's going on with that. So so submit to us, write a cool little thing, a short story, a poem, share with us your creativity, and we'll go from there. So that's what's going on with that.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I'm really looking forward. We've already had people submit, and the ones that we've received have been amazing. Really looking forward. And there's no genre required, so like Adam said, it's any genre as well. Prose, poetry, or story, whatever tickles your fancy. Right, now we've got some absolutely amazing guest authors with us today, Adam. Should we invite them to the stream?
Yeah, let's bring them on. Yeah.
Let's go. Okay, so welcome both of them. Hi.
Hades and Evelyn, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, it's so lovely to see you both. How are you both?
Good, thank you. I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm good.
Good, yeah. Good. Oh, that's good. Adam, did you want to introduce both of these?
Well, I was going to say, would you like to introduce yourselves? Hades, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you write and your process, or anything about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I started a publishing company for comics and prose in 2020, and it circled around this one kind of world that we built, and we started off with a prose anthology called Points of Villainy. It was a double anthology, so it's called Points of Villainy, Points of Virtue, and it was a book where I don't have it to hand sadly, but on one side it was villainy, and then you flip the whole book over, and then you've got the other side for virtue. And then we launched that with a comic called Messiah based in the same world. And then since we've gone on to do that, we've created other platforms where we publish for the creators. We've got a children's book platform. And since May of last year, we've been doing a comic a month of our own consecutively. Been busy. That's why I've got a lot of grey going.
Wow. That's awesome. And where can we get this? What's your company called? What's it called?
So it's called ASAP Imagination. So the three platforms that we publish are, so asapimagination.com is where we do our world, as we call it. All the main stuff runs through there. We publish for other creators in comic, graphic novel, and prose on anyoneworld.com, but it's actually NE1. It's anyoneworld.com for those.
Okay. Punch that into the chat here, and we'll make that come up across the screen for you.
Lovely, will do. Yeah. And then we a third platform which is called ASAP Minis. There's asapminis.com where we do kids books.
Wow. So much going on. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been busy.
Great. We'll have to get way more details about that. That's awesome. Evelyn, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself as well and your writing?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Evelyn Silver. I wrote Witch's Night, which is the first book in a series called The Bloodline Chronicles. And I'm going to be publishing the second one sometime soon. Just finished final edits, so that's exciting. It is adult paranormal romance. It is very bisexual and polyamorous. That's like my main focus is not necessarily the world is accepting of it, but the secret world within the world is accepting of it, and it's normal. And I just love that concept and needed it in a book.
That sounds like exactly what I did. It's queer. Part of it's queer norm where the people are celebrated and not questioned for who they are, and part of it is the real world. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, because it takes place in like 1999 in our real world, but there's the secret world of magical creatures, vampires and witches, and vampires have absolutely no problem with any of the queer or polyamorous stuff because they've been there, done that, seen it all at school.
That's marvelous. Yep.
Paranormal romance is very popular now as well, isn't it? It's I've seen quite a lot of people very focused on that as their genre. It's a very unique genre as well.
I hope so.
It's fun, and I think that you can do it to multiple levels. Mine is mature audiences only, so we'll keep it at that, and adult.
Yeah,
level.
Same here.
And then I know people who are writing like mid-grade. Is that what they're called? Like middle school and high school level characters who are having romance in paranormal situations. I love that. Yeah, there's all degrees of it. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah,
Got a lot of versatility.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, paranormal romance is not something that I've ever written in, so I'm not sure how it works. Do you have relationship with ghosts? How does it work?
So with paranormal romance, I like plot heavy stuff. So a lot of romances, the plot is the romance, but I kind of like to have a bit of balance where the romance, it is the plot, but also the plot is a lot more intense than just a romance. So that's my personal way of writing paranormal romance, is that
Cool.
fusion of the two. Because the paranormal aspect means you can go bigger than just, they meet at a coffee shop and have a nice date, which is lovely. I love those kind of books, but I like a bit of both.
Well, so share a little of your plot.
Well, it starts off with my main girl, Sarai. She is a witch who is on the run from her family, who are not so nice witches. And she has a unique ability in that she is a necromancer and a healer, while most witches only have one special power. So everybody's kind of like, oh, we could use you. So she's a hot commodity, and there's witch hunters and there's vampires. So there's like 3 factions that are vying for her, and she ends up falling in with the vampires, and it goes from there. I don't know how much to give away.
No, that's
Well,
great.
She gets rescued from the witch hunters by the vampires, and ends up sticking with them and falling in love with at least one of the vampires.
Cool. So, and Hades, can you tell us a little bit about the unique world that your team has created? It sounds like you've got a whole bunch of people working on different things.
Yeah. We actually had one of them on previously, which was D.W. Howard. He came on and did The Long Game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We published that book. Yeah. So with the Our World, we started with this event, and it was this idea that within the space of that 2-3 days, this kind of catastrophic event hit London.
Wow.
And all this kind of evil is kind of just pours out. But with the first book, with Points of Villainy, what we did was it was leaking in, so people were experiencing things. It's very much that Doctor Who, you see her out the corner of your eye kind of aspect, and all those kind of things.
Yep.
So people swear they could hear things, swear they see things. People would experiencing voices, all this stuff, and then it kind of gets stronger and stronger, and then all of a sudden there's this explosion of evil, and it hits London en masse. And because it's a comic book world, I've got all the the pre-event heroes, as we call them, very much kind of like capes and underpants on the outside kind of one, and they all fell during the event. They were either killed, they ran away, but they failed. Was the event. And then all of a sudden these kind of beings appear, and this happens in Virtue. These beings appear, and they're kind of like beings of light, which we, as the human race, dub them as the Luminous, and then they save us, and then we're left after the course of one weekend going, what the hell just happened? So all the heroes are gone, and what we do is we literally pick up from that point, and that's where the comic book series starts to run. So we've got 6 titles that run various stories from there. But each story within that, so I wrote it with L.A. Cunningham, who, again, I will have to point you to get onto your show. He's absolutely wonderful. And we had a lot of fun writing it, in the sense because we're very similar in our voices, in how we write. So to start off with, we refused to tell people which one of us wrote which story. It was a very kind of mischievous, I'll never tell, because we just wanted that playful nature. Mm-hmm. And then she wrote one in particular. I kind of went, oh man, you wish you'd thought of an idea, and you go, I bloody love this. So I convinced her to take a stab at writing comic books, and now she's the editor-in-chief and now writes comic books. So, and then we had to say, yes, she wrote this story because it then led on to another title.
Yeah,
Wow.
we'd love to have her on.
She's brilliant. Yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah,
fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. And yeah, it's just grown from there. D.W. Howard writes one of the titles, which is called OPSEC, which is like a very government agency type of thing. One of the titles I wrote is called Messiah, which is based off this kind of reject. So there's this organization behind everything after the event, and this character is a reject of that and manages to escape. And he's very bandaged and broken, and his ability, if you can call it that, is he can heal others but not himself. So he can absorb your wound, but he can't heal himself. So it's that, I'm sorry, I can't afford to help you because I'll die. And it's because you've got that, the classic heroes was always the sacrifice, and him kind of going,
That's a good choice.
Yeah, thank you. I like the idea of a flawed, and he doesn't even want to be a hero. It was the power was kind of, he was experimented on. So then we've got Messiah, then we've got Dead of Night, which is about one of the fallen heroes who is driven mad by the event, and then kind of gets quite medieval in like modern day London. Sister Grimm, which is the one that Laurie is writing. Which issue 2 is already out, 1 and 2. Hole, which is about someone literally in the wake of the event, and then OPSEC, which is the government agency, I wanted to say. And then we're turning the book into comics at the moment. So we've got the first run, which is Points of Villainy trilogy, and then we're doing Points of Villainy trilogy. So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
And,
I love the twist.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I love that twist. I also love anti-heroes. I like heroes because they represent a pure side of humanity, and I think we kind of need that sometimes. But I do love an anti-hero, especially bad girl, bad boy, turn good kind of thing. Or a character who is mostly good but does bad stuff. Yeah, I quite like that.
I kind of almost like the opposite, not quite the opposite. I love the villains who are actually kind of heroes. The really conflicted villains, like I didn't mean to wear this shirt, but I'm wearing.
I noticed when you came on. Brilliant.
Who not only has he been the villain for 90% of his career, but he also ran Xavier's school at one point. Like the good side of him is so apparent underneath all his, like Jules likes to talk about, just the trauma. He goes through such horrible trauma that brings him to this point where he's willing to do terrible things and has given up on humanity. And that's the kind of character I like, really conflicted characters.
Yeah, same. That was the focus on the Dead of Night one. The pre-event, the character was he didn't wear a mask as a hero. His family had always been part of this lineage of kind of the knights that would look after the kingdom. And then the event happens and he's driven utterly mad. And then what he does is he destroys his own family. They've got an exhibition. He destroys the exhibition, pieces together all this armor, and just goes mad. And just instead of arresting the criminals, then he starts to like heads on pikes type justice, that kind of thing. And it was really weird to have this character and kind of going, oh, isn't he great? Right, now I'm really going to mess with him. I'm so sorry. So I like that because it adds a layer to who they are.
Yeah,
Fun.
It really does. I think we read books and we find characters who we can empathize with, and I think if we can find a character like Maleficent, I think I spoke about her last week, where she's a traditional evil character in the earlier films. But actually, when you see how she was treated as she was growing up, it's kind of, you can't expect it to be any other way. It wasn't really her fault. And then you develop empathy for this character who really shouldn't, because their actions are terrible. I really like I like what Adam said. I really like complex characters. I don't like characters that are just pure one way or the other.
Yeah.
Evelyn, you want to tell us something about your characters? What about the characters in your book? I mean, I know you said the
we're
plot is
talking villains and stuff, right? Yeah, I've got a couple of decent villains. I also like the complex villains who have, multiple reasons for being the way they are. I think the thing that makes a villain for me stand out as opposed to being an anti-hero or another protagonist or something like that is a level of selfishness. So that's what really makes a villain for me is they've got that selfish streak that, okay, I've been through all this stuff. That means I deserve whatever it is that they're seeking, power, attention, fame, money, whatever it happens to be. So I think that's my take on a lot of villains. And then there's also self-righteous villains who are absolutely convinced that what they're doing has to be the right thing, but they're just tunnel visioned and are incapable of seeing beyond the tunnel. So those are my favorite kind of villains.
Cool.
They're really interesting because they very much pick up on what does distinguish between someone who is inherently good and someone who is inherently not. I think they're two very good sort of descriptors of what makes a villain. So yeah, that's good.
Well, and the flip side to that, I kind of have a hard time believing in like the Superman type characters that are just almost always all good and can do no wrong and
Oh yeah,
do
for
anything.
sure.
I kind of have a hard time with that like God superhero thing. That to me seems unrealistic. I think if anybody had powers, we'd almost inevitably become a supervillain. I think that's almost inevitable. If any of us had superpowers,
I think we'd definitely be a lot more selfish with our superpowers than say Superman. That's for sure. I've definitely got like
there'd be some level of entitlement.
everybody in
You
my
just
book
couldn't
is
get around. I feel
supernatural in some way.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't understand.
No, I'm
Cut off
sorry.
for a second there.
I was just I don't know. It's just the different levels of superheroes. I think that that Hades said a second ago, the hero that doesn't want to be a hero. That to me is the most believable good character. Like, I mean, I'm not a super fan of Spider-Man, but I use him as a reference because he's sort of presented as a character who doesn't want these powers and he just wants to be a teenage kid, and that to me means he probably has the most potential to do good. Whereas somebody like Professor X is like, oh, I have this great power, let me help everyone, and he does whatever he wants, which isn't necessarily what everybody wants and not good for the masses. So I don't know.
I'm going to plug my books for a second, if that's all right.
Yes, tell us about your books, Jules.
Only because it relates to what you were just saying. So this is book one of the Dark Fantasy series. That's book two, and so basically, sort of snippet of one of the reasons why this book here is a limited edition. I only have a limited supply of these ones for a very specific reason. Cover is going to be changing, but the protagonist there, she is an anti-hero. She does not want to be a hero. She's thrust into this position she doesn't want to be in, and through no fault of her own, she ends up in a situation where she has to make some dark choices, and it's choices between killing one person over allowing a whole load of people to be killed, and that is quite, she's only 17. That's quite a big thing that she has to make a decision on. The decision is kind of taken out of her hands, but then she's then forced to make a decision about whether she loses her potential love interest and potential best friend and his family, to actually losing all the children who have been put into child labour camps to be prepped to become child soldiers. And so she has to make some very difficult decisions. And along the way, she makes mistakes, and she finds herself in the position of making decisions that aren't actually inherently good because she doesn't know any other way. And so we see a side of her that's very dark. And particularly, we see her, her inner struggles kind of come out. And so we have quite a complex character who wants to be good, who wants to do the right thing. So she is a good person, but she's thrust into positions where she doesn't get an opportunity to actually show them.
Mm.
So it's I quite like that aspect of it. I like the complexity that you guys have been talking about.
Yeah, no, I love stuff like that because it just adds that layer. And when I was writing for Messiah issue 1, it was something that it came from a doodle. Literally, I just doodled this character some years ago, and it was one of those things when I wanted to do this, it just made the most sense that the first cover of the first comic shouldn't be pristine and have this beautiful costume and a cape bellowing in the wind. He's got a hood on, he's got bandages across like kind of this part of his face, and he's looking behind him because he's being hunted anyway, but and then you just got everything else is dark behind him, and then you just got the London Eye, and I'm like, there we go. That is this world. That is it. And he doesn't want. So when he escaped from this facility, a load of others, he went with him, but they're ready to follow him, and he's kind of going, no, like leave me alone. And all he wants was his life pre-event. And he's never going to get that back because during the event, the woman that he loved was killed. Everything happened to him. New powers. The whole world's changed within this year because it takes place a year after the event. So that's not happening now. It's and it's one of those things where I also, because I've spoken to a few people and they're going, he's gonna come good though, and I've gone, I don't know yet. I don't know because you're expecting it to come good. So
sent into madness.
Yeah. And I just we ended the first issue on you see is a power kind of coming out, and it's very much the 21st century. The last page is someone filming it on their phone. So we have discussed, because there's a slight gap or a time jump between issue 1 and issue 2. And again, in the essence of storytelling, we're actually looking to see if we can go and film it, just the moment that happened between issue 1 and issue 2. So I like the idea of different methods of storytelling. And it'd be great to just tie them in between and stuff like that. So.
Cool multimedia experience. Yeah.
That is definitely. So how do you both because obviously we all have different characters, we all have our own way of writing, and this obviously includes you as well, Adam. How do you convey the emotions of your characters in your writing or in your in your images? How does that work? Because obviously different characters have different feelings and different ways of expressing it and different ways of dealing with it, and it's quite interesting to be able to lead the reader onto that journey with it.
Evelyn, please.
I've got a few ways that I like to do emotion is using the environment and also the physical reactions of characters. So focusing on not necessarily like, oh, I'm feeling angry, but the physical reaction that you get to being angry, like, oh, I'm feeling kind of tingly about this. And then also how you describe the environment is a reflection of a character's internal emotions. So like you could have a gorgeous setting and a character who feels trapped by it is going to be like, oh yeah, that's a gilded cage if I ever saw one. Or yeah, that might be really gorgeous, but I can't appreciate that. That looks like glass to me. This isn't right. So those are ways that I like to convey characters' emotions, is through the physicality of what the emotions feel like and through the environment and the reaction to the environment around them.
That's really interesting you say that.
Yeah.
In my one, I have monsters, different types of monsters. Some I've just completely made up, and some I've kind of drawn from mythology from across the globe. And I'm using the actual monsters in the world, but they're metaphors as well for the way that she doesn't deal with her emotions and her trauma that she experiences. And the longer she leaves that, the worse the monsters get. And so I'm not sure where
That's
it's
a
headed
good-
at the moment.
That's a good premise.
It's kind of as her lack of dealing with how she's experiencing the trauma, you know, in her head.
Mhm.
Yeah, her
Yeah,
fights
it's kind of
get
like the emotions changing the environment. That's pretty cool. Yeah, but my character's emotions don't really change the environment so much as just their perception
Well,
of the environment.
Yeah,
And-
that's what I was going to say, Evelyn.
Yeah.
It feels like your character's perception of the environment can almost change. Well, can change their experience of it almost. Like somebody, like you said, somebody's enjoying a nice sunny day while the other person feels like they're in a gilded cage. Yeah, that's pretty interesting to give two very different perspectives. I don't know, from the same thing, you know, from different people. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's clever. What about
It's a
you,
bit like
Hades?
Thank you.
How do you bring out? Sorry. Oh, was there more? Sorry. Go ahead, Jules. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just going to add that it's a bit like when it rains. You know, if you're feeling a particular emotion in real life and you walk out and it's raining, sometimes the rain is like refreshing, or it washes away that raw emotion that you're experiencing, or sometimes it just is a reflection on that sadness that you're feeling, or the loneliness or emptiness.
Very true.
I actually really love rain because there's so many examples of like rain being used in different ways, and it's the same exact rain, but in this context it's romantic and sensual almost, and in this context it's lonely, and in this context it's renewal, and you could do so much with rain. I love it.
Yeah, my book one starts off with this whopping gravy thunderstorm. So yeah, and again, it's another reflection on what's going on in the situation. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
It's interesting.
Weather's actually really cool as far as emotions. Sorry. Well, I was saying weather's actually really awesome tool in books for emotions, because obviously in real life, you know, your emotions aren't going to influence the weather, but in a book, the character's emotions could very well be an influence on the weather, or vice versa, you know.
Yeah,
So it's a good tool to have.
Yeah, it is. It adds another layer as well, doesn't it? It makes the book seem more reachable.
Yeah.
And you know, even in poetry as well, if you have, you know, you can have weather representing different emotions, and the reader can understand that because it's something that they experience, you know, daily. You know, with the changing of the weather and things. So, and in England, it tends to rain quite a bit.
I'm in South Florida, so
you get lots of rain.
Lots and lots of rain. And it's humid. Nobody goes outside.
We get I live on the south coast, and we get an awful lot of thunderstorms down here, which is amazing. I love thunderstorms. But you know, obviously some people don't. But people tend to associate sort of northern part of England and London, you know, that area, with lots and lots of rain and just grey and miserable. And I mean, what do you think, Hades? Would you find it rainy a lot?
When I talk to my friends overseas, I've got one friend in particular who's in Los Angeles, and he'll talk to me about the weather, and I'll just usually the same word pops out of my mouth, which is grey. You know, he'll go, "Oh, we've had this and we've had this," and I'll go, "Oh no." And then Laurie's based in Canada, and she's like, "Oh, we had a foot of snow yesterday," and I've gone, "Yeah, it was grey." And then the other day it was grey, and then it got dark, and then that's pretty much how I describe it. You know, but I'm from an Irish family, so like I'm very pale. Like, don't let this light fool you. That's the light bulb. This isn't my complexion. I reflect. So sunshine really doesn't. I'm not a massive, huge fan of it anyway. Plus, I'm an insomniac, so nighttime and grey, I'm all right with that.
Yeah. I used to teach a child who, when we were looking at the weather, I asked her what colour the sky was, and that was the colour she said. She said it was just grey, and I was just like, "It's not actually, it's blue." And she's like, "I haven't seen it blue." She didn't believe it.
That's so funny.
We do have a lot of blue skies here in Florida. We do have some really weird precipitation, if you want to call it that, though, like a couple times a year when it gets slightly cold, but by our standards. the iguanas kind of freeze up in the trees and go stiff, and then it rains iguanas.
Nice.
That sounds
So
unpleasant.
that's
You can
I
add that
just
into
just
your
beware
stories,
of
couldn't you?
falling iguanas if it's cold out, you know?
Wow. I did not
Duly
know that.
noted.
Yeah. Like, you know, beware of falling coconuts, don't walk under the palm fronds, and if it's 40 degrees or lower, there might be iguanas falling on your head. It's fine.
That's
Excellent.
pretty wild. Yeah, that's
Oh.
pretty crazy.
It is crazy. That is coconuts. Yes, I got that. Falling iguanas is not something that I would have actually looked out for in Florida.
Yeah, and they're pretty big too. Like these things could get up to 6 feet, I think. I don't know, it's ridiculous.
Wow, that's pretty big.
But
That is pretty
again,
big.
though,
Yeah.
it's like being from the UK. I went to Orlando a few years back, and this is the difference between how my very Irish skin dealt with the heat. Was a friend of mine tried so hard to. We were at this hotel, and he's like, just chill out by the pool and just come on. Like, no. And then finally, he said, just do it. Factor 50 everywhere. But I still burned that badly across my shin, of all places, that I had to see, and this is how badly I burned. I had to see the hotel medic
Oh
because
wow.
because
Oh, gosh. Oh, man.
my grey sky knowing skin had kind of gone, what is this fireball? And yeah, I'd literally burnt that badly. I had to go and see the medic.
Yeah, you
my
gotta
God.
reapply the sunscreen
Yeah, that's the
every
thing.
hour or so if
I
if
did,
you're
and I
like
was just
me.
like, but yeah. So I was happily back in the grey sky kind of thing.
Brutal.
Fair enough.
Wow.
So how do you do emotions in your writing, Hades? Because yours is very different to Evelyn's.
It is, but I think when one of the things for points of villainy and virtue is I think the way we were looking at emotions, because obviously it's quite horror based and it's quite scary and people are faced with their fears. How they react to their fears is the emotion. So in one story in particular, there is a guy who is hidden away from all this kind of terror that's going on the street, and he's haunted kind of by this demonic voice, and it's kind of, I will get you, and he's got two choices: it's stay and possibly die, or I can jump. And it was a very, I don't know if you remember the end of Constantine with Keanu Reeves, where just as he's being lifted up, he kind of flips the devil the bird.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it ends in that moment, and there's this guy, and that's how he reacted to that moment. And it's in my head as we were having those stories written, it was like, that's how I'd like to think I'd react, but I don't know if it would be how I would react. But it's that idea of this is how I'd like to be, but I'm not sure whether I would. And then we have a story which plays on my worst fear, was there was a guy basically trapped in a box, and there's a whisper the other side of the wood. And for me, I would scream and cry and scream and cry and scream and cry. But again, it was like playing with those emotions of how would you, if you're honestly stuck and you're trapped there, how do you then face it? Because we're flight or fight. Well, flight's been taken out of the equation, so so we played with that a lot. And then I think when it transfers over to comic book scripts, we still put in detail for the artist, but also this is the joy that we would have. We get to play with color, we get to play with expression. If something is a rage-filled moment, we'll work with the artist and we'll add that into the color palette. So it's two completely different mediums. But for me to write the two, but I still add the same detail that's needed for the artist that I would do, just in less words, I think, than I would do for the reader, because they're then gonna, kind of put that across. But yeah, I think for comic books, use of color, especially. again, I know we joke about the grey there, but you know, it automatically sets the tone of the scene for a lot of us. If you've got a black and white comic book, for example, it sets a completely different tone than one that you open and it's just a blast of colour. You know?
That's what Death Note does. Death Note it's just black and white, and you also read it from back to front rather than front to back. It's done in a very weird way, but it's very effective because it's jarring, because it's not what you're used to reading, but also because it's black and white, it somehow conveys a really dark, menacing undertone whilst having comedic things happening throughout. It's a very interesting text, actually. But yeah, it's a good read. It is good.
Yeah.
And I actually really like graphic novels because they are able to convey emotions through the art that's within it. But if sometimes the art isn't enough to be able to do that, so they actually have reactions of the characters bouncing off each other, and that is another really useful method of being able to convey meaning to the reader, I think.
I would agree. It's like when even though obviously you know you're seeing it as a visual form with some characters, like if you use Alan Moore's Watchmen, for example, Rorschach is an unseen face. So you know, Alan Moore conveys his rage and his anger and his disappointment through his words, and he does it obviously beautifully. Whereas the others, you can see they might just have a domino mask, so you can still see the expression. But with Rorschach, it's very clever writing on Alan Moore's part, because when you've got no face to deal with, like how do you convey it then? You know, if it's a visual form. So it's this beautiful fine line. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it's a great point because comic book art often has the advantage of over exaggerating an expression and giving you that face and that emotion in a dramatic enough way that your reader's going to know exactly how your character feels. And Rorschach's a really cool example of stealing that from them. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Now, I'm dying to hear a little bit of your work.
I was literally going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. If both able to do some reading. I genuinely don't mind who would like to go first. So whoever.
Well, I don't really have anything in that sense, because obviously a lot of mine is just comic books. So it would literally me be going, "Oh, this picture's great." So I will fully yield the floor to Evelyn, and I will just sit in wonder and watch, if that's okay.
That's absolutely fine. And if you wanted to, Hayley, to actually share some of the bits that you have got, you're very welcome to actually. I can put you up on the screen and you can show some of the images from your.
Do you know what? I didn't. Everything's in my office. I didn't even think to grab, because we don't usually. So when I'm on a podcast, it's just I talk and I leave.
We're a very casual group here. We're totally cool with whatever. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, so you know, it's absolutely fine. So Evelyn, you're welcome to read. Adam, you're also welcome to read.
I'd love to. Yeah.
You know, and you know, we can talk about the work. And Hades, obviously, you're very welcome to join in any time with the discussion. And
Thank you.
We're very, like Adam said, we're very relaxed here, so it's all good.
Evelyn, have you watched our show before, by any chance?
I watched a bit of it, yeah.
Okay.
So I have some idea.
Okay.
You got my email? I did. So I've got an audio book which reads my book a lot better than I do. And I put together a little passage. I think it's about 6 minutes. I think that was an okay time compared to some of the stuff I've seen you guys do before. So I have about 6-minute passage from my audiobook, which is a full cast audiobook. So each of the characters have their own voice actors. So it's a little bit. It's better than what I could just read to you. So I sent that video.
Yeah, did we get that video, Jules? Do you have that? I think we
sent it to the email.
Yeah, I'm hoping that
on the chat. Hang on a second.
I can put the link in the chat if that works.
Oh
yeah,
do that.
That would be awesome. I've not done it like this before,
one second. Let me find it.
No problem. Take your time. Take your time. Yeah, because normally we'll put the person on screen, the reader, whoever's reading at the time, on screen by themselves. The rest of us will drop back into the back room again where we started. The reader, you can read, or you will have your video going until it ends, and then we'll all pop back on. So that's just normally how we do it. Cool.
Yeah, I was just thinking, whilst Evelyn's doing that, did you want to do some reading yourself first, and then it gives Evelyn takes the pressure off a little bit in terms of trying to get it together, and it also means that we get to hear some of your awesome work too.
No, definitely, I'd be happy to. Yeah,
and you know the drill, so you know that I'm going to chuck you on the screen and get rid of everyone else.
I can deal with that.
All right, so I'm going to take everyone else off, and I'm going to leave you on the screen in a second. And once you found your page, you can read whatever you like. Really, yeah. I'll keep it again very relaxed today.
Yeah.
But it's cool that you're reading from that book. It is cool, and I'm really excited that you've got the sequel coming out as well. That's really cool. And actually, you have it. I did buy it.
You did. Thank you.
Yeah, I did get it. So I get as many books as I can of all the authors. I'm not always able to find them because sometimes they're like on websites which then don't post over here and stuff. But the ones that I can get, I do.
Oh, that's awesome! Thank you.
Why would I not?
Let's see. I don't know what I should read.
Because I know that it's up to you, but I know that these you wanted these, didn't you? So
I need to get copies of those. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can get a limited edition one with the.
I know, with the special cover. Ooh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to take over whenever you're ready. Cool.
Perfect. So I'm going to just remove everyone from the screen, and you know the drill, and we'll see you in a sec.
Bye. Cool. So hi, everybody. Again, I'm Adam Andrews Johnson. I wrote the Mantis variant. This book, again, it's horror. It's dystopian. It takes place in a twisted future. For a little bit of backstory, the human race has started developing superpowers. A small percentage of people have started developing superpowers, but it turns out you can steal those superpowers if you are not born with them. So people with powers are being hunted by people without powers to murder them and kill them and actually cannibalize a specific piece of them that allows them to become super powered and empowered themselves. So it's kind of twisted, it's kind of messed up, and it's a world where the superpowers are not, it's not good to have superpowers. It's kind of a flip on the whole thing. So yeah. So we're gonna pick up with the introduction of a new character that is important. And so yeah. So I'm actually going to jump back to the end of the chapter right before, because then it leads into it nicely. Ilya added in a weak voice, "His kid is a shift." And she looked at Dozy. He gave up the people in his life to have some semblance of a relationship with her. I still don't fucking trust him, Dozy responded, and she crossed her arms. Ilya turned to Agro. You can't possibly know what you'll encounter in the underground. The people below may not look much like the rest of us, but they are my kind, and they will not like it if they find out you're a messiah. There's a bunch of weirdos who live down there, Dozy mumbled, and she shook her head. Ilya scrunched up her face at the words. They can't help it, she said, her brow furrowing. No shift asked to be born that way, even me. I don't have any physical abnormalities, but I still would rather have been born a human. And I wish I was born something else, Dozy thought to herself. Ilya winced at the pain in her side and said through gritted teeth, also, it's their child, their own daughter who is a bio-shift. So watch what you say in front of them. She nodded to the door that the men just exited through, and it opened again as they returned with a small handheld lamp. This should help, said the mystic. Thank you for doing this, his husband added. We're so worried about her. Show me where to go, Agro requested. It's not far, the mystic told her, and he and his husband led her out of the back room. I don't know, Dozy said to Ilya in a low growl. I just don't trust them. But if you don't trust them, why did you bring us back here? Because I don't have the means to handle your fresh and very serious wounds. He's taking care of you. Ilya looked towards the door. Why don't you go after them and stay with her? Because I definitely don't trust the mystic with you. Besides, as a messiah, they can't hurt her, Dozy added. She's brand new to the city, and there's no telling what she'll encounter in the underground. I was barely aware that there even was an underground to Teshin City. Ilya squinted at another bolt of pain. She sucked air through her teeth and took a quavering breath before she spoke. You seem to care about others, she observed. I can tell you like to act tough, but you're worried about Agril. Now we're going to meet our new character, Chapter 13. The mystic and his husband led Agril a few blocks to where the land fell into the ocean. She turned her gaze out to the vast expanse of rolling blue beyond the gray sky, because the sky is always gray here, just since we've been talking about that. Rolling blue beneath the gray sky, and she stared at the sea with wonder. A railing ran along the path above the water's edge, which was only a short drop below them. They stepped up and placed their hands on the rail. Her passage is just there, said the mystic as he leaned over the railing. He pointed down, and Agril could see the lip of a pipe. It was easy to miss, even though he showed her right where to look. The opening may have been a ventilation shaft. It's too small for most people to use, the mystic added. I'm sure I can fit, Agril responded. Her voice sounded confident. She was keen to help. Theolin informed her, there's a chunk of stone that Lahari uses to step up and down from the rocks below, and he pointed at a small protrusion. Agril descended with ease and planted her feet on the rocks that stretched along the waterline. She looked back up at the men who were just a little ways above her head, then she peered into the tunnel. This may take a while, she stated. Are you going to wait or go back to your shop? I was too discombobulated before, the mystic responded, and I'm not sure if I bandaged your friend properly. I also need to make her another potion. Then another sob choked his words, and he said, Thank you for doing this. All my treatments for her will be on the house. Agril did not consider that they would need to pay for his care of Ilya, and his offer felt like a generous bonus for her searching the underground. The men watched her from above as Agril climbed into the small opening. She crouched and shuffled forward through the narrow concrete tunnel. The pipe was not large, and she made her way in a hunched position with her head down. Its ceiling was right above her. After a very short distance, she came to a panel that blocked her way. A hinge creaked as she pushed the wall in front of her, and it opened. Agril stepped into an open underground chamber that was tall enough for her to stand upright. It led only a little ways ahead to a corner, and around it was a door. Agril opened it and discovered a flight of stone stairs. She descended, but only a short way down, she came to an impasse. It looked like there was a terrible collapse, and she wondered if it was from the explosion the previous night. The walls and ceiling were severely damaged, and debris filled and blocked her progress down. Agril looked at one of the massive chunks of broken masonry in front of her with uncertainty, but she gripped both sides of it with her hands and lifted. As if it were no more than a pebble or made of foam, she raised the giant slab of concrete above her head. No! cried the voice of a woman from somewhere unseen, and then she added, Put it back! Agril looked around but could not tell where the voice came from or who was speaking. What are you doing in my tunnel? Agril stood there holding this huge stone, feeling surprised and unsure. And she replied, I'm trying to find someone after the explosion. Humans aren't welcome in the underground, the voice declared. Go back the way you came and do not return. There's no one down here for you. Agril put the stone down and called out, I need to find someone's daughter. We who dwell below no longer hold ties to those on the surface. In the light, there is no place for those such as we. Be gone. I think her name is Lahari, Agril said over the woman's voice. Then there was silence. Agril decided to speak up again. Do you know anyone by that name, Lahari? Or maybe something close to that? She received no reply. Agril tried to explain. There was an explosion last night in the underground. You must be aware of what happened. There's a mystic up here who says his daughter lives below, and he's so worried about her. I think she's a child. He calls her his little moth. The voice spoke again, but it was quiet. Ada? It said. Agril did not understand, and she asked, Do you know someone named Lahari, or maybe Lahara, or Lahira? Scraping noises that sounded like stone against stone coming from the debris in front of her, and the pieces began shifting. A moment later, a monstrous young woman stepped out of the rubble, but it remained in place behind her. Ada, she said again. Agrel's eyes opened wide and her jaw dropped. She took a step back from the woman and held up the necklace with the purple gemstone. Oh, that's from her father. No description from the mystic or his husband could have prepared Agrel for the inhuman person who stood before her. She was not a little girl. Agrel did not even consider that the woman was naked because her skin was an unnatural bluish color that was lighter on her face and much darker across the rest of her body. Almost every inch of her bizarre epidermis was covered in thick plate scales that were each about the size of a small coin. Her skull was ridged with a trio of crests that rose from her bald, scaly head. Coupled with her skin, she looked very reptilian. Black quills stuck out like countless tiny horns all around her face in a terrible halo. They also protruded out from the sides and back of her neck, and they got larger and the further down they grew. More spines stabbed out from her shoulders and upper arm, as well as from her hips and the sides of her thighs. She stared at Agrel with sparkling golden eyes, took a step forward, and reached out to take the handmade piece of jewelry. Ada sent you? The woman asked. He's never told anyone about my secret passage. Ada? Agrel repeated. Is that your father? Are you Lahari? Lahari nodded. I am. He's worried about you. Both of your fathers are. They're helping someone that I know who got hurt. Then there was the explosion last night, and they were so worried about you today. So I offered to come find you because I could fit through the tunnel that you used to visit them. Agrel could not determine what the expression on Lahari's strange face meant. I just want to help, Agrel reiterated. Why don't you come up with me and tell them you're okay? I know that would make them feel better. Why don't you just go up and tell them I'm fine? Lahari countered. She looked up at the ceiling. It's daytime. I can't go up there now anyways. Agrel did not know how Lahari made the deduction from within the darkness of the basement chamber, but she was correct that the sun was up. Please, Agrel began, but Lahari interrupted her. It's not safe for my kind to go above ground during the day. I'm going to go ahead and stop. I've been reading for a while, and we got to the exciting part where we get the reveal of this crazy, crazy, awesome character, Lahari. So that's my book, The Mantis Variant. It is available on paperback on Amazon, but it's also available for really cheap, like $3 or $2 or something for ebook if you have a Kindle, also on Amazon. If you'd like a signed copy, you can reach out to me over my social media platforms, and I'd be happy to send you one with my fancy little signature on the front. Yeah, so those are some of the characters. And oh, here comes everybody. Hi, Jules. Hi, everybody. We're back. Cool. You may need to unmute your microphones. That sometimes happens. So yeah, so that's
for a minute.
that was my
awesome. That was awesome.
That was really great. Yeah, really. I really enjoyed as you were reading though. You also just made reference to the grey. That really just made me smile. It's great. And I was like,
pointed it out.
Yeah, I loved it, and that was really good. I really enjoyed that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
What made you choose to write a female character there?
I don't know. I think probably because my first book, the novel, The Starting End, that you're releasing next year, it's so vast and it's so specifically focused on the main character who's male, who's dealing with his own sexuality and gender identity through the whole story, that when it came time for me to write something else, it was so natural for me to write, I need to write a female character. And in The Starting End, some of the secondary characters who are female are what I would think of as versions of myself that I'd like to be. I think Hades mentioned that a few minutes earlier, that they're a character that you sort of see the person you want to be. Oh, the flipping off the Keanu Reeves, like when I wrote one of the female like heroes, anti-heroes, whatever you want to call her, in The Starting End, I wrote her responding to everything the way that I wish I could respond to things. She's just confident. She's awesome. She's the hero of the story, basically, even though she's not the main character. So loving writing those characters, it was so normal for me to write. all my main characters are female in this book. There's Dozy, Agro, and Ilya, who all live together. They're all female. They're all between 19 and 22, I think. And then they meet Lahari, this other unique, crazy, awesome female character who's close to the same age, but she doesn't look human at all. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, that worked for me. It totally worked.
I loved it. I thought it was really good. What I liked about it as well is we've got a character in our world, and it's 3 female characters, and it's also based off, like, again, from an Irish family, folklore. So it's following they're called the Sisters of Brigid, and they're 3 women that are chosen by the earth, and they're giving me powers. Brigid is a deity, like a goddess from Irish culture, and she's known as the triple goddess. And it's the fire of the hearth, the fire of inspiration, and the fire of the forge. And what I enjoyed, and I don't know if you did similar when you were writing these characters, but I actually based the 3 women off 3 women that I'd actually met in my life. One of them I was particularly close with, and she was the fire of inspiration. So the character, her words, you know, she has the ability to inspire you to change your mind, you know, almost a hypnotic sense, but she used it for good, hence the inspiration. And I based that off a friend of mine called Cherie, who I used to work with, wonderful woman. Did you do the same then when you're writing for these characters, or is it just based off like how you're feeling at the time of writing?
Actually, the main character of the starting end, my queer norm novel, the male character, is actually based on a woman. Right. So I intentionally wrote the way that I thought she responded to things, very, you know, not that she is timid, just she likes to observe. And so his reactions to things often seem very timid because he's taking things in, and he's really observing people and paying attention, and he doesn't like to speak up unless he's really comfortable with the situation, and then he's really confident when he's in the right scenario. And just, yeah, I drew from a totally completely real person through the lens of my own idiotic brain, you know, but yeah, totally.
Again, it ties in my, sorry to cut you off at the end there, but it ties in with what we were saying earlier about perceptions. It's self-perception and how you perceive others. Again, that the 3 women that we've written for Brigid, one of the women was a fleeting meeting. Oh, that rhymed. That was weird. But it was, I had met her in a pub in Dublin, and she, one of the most beautiful women, just the kind of what people would stereotype for the Irish, but she, you know, kind of flaming curls and so on and so forth. And I had my Wayne's World Dreamweaver moment while I was talking to her, you know. But it was that lasting impression, and my perception, you know, my perspective of her was, you know, again, I automatically was like, I'm writing this woman into my goddess character. You know, and again, it's just awesome. that how you pick up on people from where you're standing. I love it.
I had an instantaneous moment that I knew I had to put in the starting end also. Not the book I just read, my other book that's coming out next year, where I met somebody at an event, and it was this really diminutive little guy, this teeny little guy, and he just had the longest eyelashes I'd ever seen. He wasn't wearing fake eyelashes. It was just like I couldn't take my eyes off his eyes, and it was cool. He was super, like, I'm super queer, so it was a safe environment for me to stare at somebody's eyes like that. But yeah, and I knew as soon as I got home, I was like, I'm writing this character that it's just a fleeting passing in the book. They just see him, and it was exactly the experience that I had. Ollie comes in and sees this really interesting little person, and his eyes are, wow, look at it. Oh, his eyelashes. Oh my goodness. And then they're off to other stuff. It was just like that. Just because. Yeah, just took her straight out of reality.
yeah, I love it.
My character, she, I would definitely say that she's an author for me, because she does some really brave things, and I'm not sure if I would do them. And like, she leads an army into battle, you know, a bit like Joan of Arc. And I think that's just so courageous. And Joan of Arc and Boudica are both very inspirational to me. And I really admire the tenacity that they both had and the strength that they had in order to fight. And I'm just like, I'm not sure if I would do that. I'd like to think that I would, but I'm not sure if I would or not. So yeah, she's definitely someone who I admire as a character. And yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, to sort of draw a character or create a character that is completely different to you, because they are an extension of you to a certain extent, aren't they?
Speaking of characters, I got a question for you. You always ask other people how it is to write. How is it for me to write a female character, whatever? And I know your main character is female, but what about how is it writing all the male characters for you?
So I do actually have male characters in my books. One of the leading male characters, I've got two leading male characters really. One who is Raven, who is a kind of love interest, but then nothing really happens. It's just a potential thing there. I didn't want him to be an arse. So many male characters tend to be written to be really just like a twat.
Yep.
And I didn't want him to be like that. I wanted him to be a decent, nice person. Who is a soldier, who's got inner strength, who's kind, who's generous, who's calm, who is able to support people who he loves and defends people who he loves. A real genuinely nice guy, but has flaws because he then he doesn't like the decisions that Ray makes. So yeah, it was interesting. It is interesting getting into their head, and then the enemy is like the tormentor, which we don't know his name. That's just what Ray nicknames him because he's awful to her. And again, that was really difficult to try and get into the head of someone's gender who I've never been. And so again, for me, that was quite a lot of research into why people make the decisions that they do. I found it quite difficult, I must admit.
Oh, interesting. Evelyn, I'd love to ask you the same question. How is it for you writing people of other genders, whether male or any other gender you might use?
Well, I have a few male characters, and I have a trans man who is probably my most favorite to write because he's got a whole big backstory that's left him very angry and mad at the occult world. So we were talking about emotion earlier. He's probably my most emotional character, and that was just really fun to get into his anger. But
Wow,
the
cool.
other male characters, it depends on the character, because there's another level of it with the whole vampire thing of they're mostly a lot older than any person could reasonably ever be. So
Right.
there's trying to get into the mindset of somebody who's seen a lot and how they would react and how how their gender through society's changes has influenced their behavior and their cultures, all sorts of things like that. Like, how do you react to things? One of my favorites is a side character who is Mi'kmaq. He's a Native American man, and he's a vampire. He's been around for a long time, and he kind of deals with everything through humor. So I've seen that a lot in some people I know, guys who will deal with a lot of stuff and just come out clowns, for lack of a better word. But they
see that in
see
soldiers.
a little bit of gallows humor, a little bit of jokes here and there, but they've also got the serious side. So in the first book, he doesn't get as much attention, but he definitely gets more depth to his character as the series is going to progress, and that's a lot of fun to write.
That's really cool.
Awesome.
I think the question can also be extended to what you started to talk about, Evelyn. Sexuality and and gender as well, in terms of how people see each other. Because Ray is bi, and we get to see that more in book 3 and book 4. But in book 1 and 2, that's not really touched upon. There's like potential there, but nothing happens. But I've got a non-binary leader of the Okarian in book 3 who we meet, But I wanted to write trans in there, but I felt I wouldn't do it justice. Not because I felt like, oh, I
I
need
was
to
a
write
little
it.
worried.
I just
Yeah.
felt like I wouldn't do it justice, and I felt that wasn't going to be fair on a community if I was going to write it in a way that could be either insensitive or just
Well,
not
that's what I
accurate.
love. Yeah, there's I have a friend who influenced the character a little bit for me for my trans male character, who is also a trans man, and I also worked with a professional sensitivity reader who I will always advocate for sensitivity readers for any significant characters. They're just worth their weight in gold. But it also helped having the friend in real life, given who is a pretty big fan of my writing and a great friend, and I love supporting him, and he supports me, and having the feedback back and forth. That was so. I think I did it justice, and it helps that the story isn't about being who he is. You know, it's a story about vampires and witches, and he's
Yeah.
not the main character. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's a comfortable place to write where I can do it justice.
I think it's really important that as authors and writers, we know where the limit is in terms of our not ability so much, but our depth of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think it is. I do think it's important to have that sensitivity towards groups and people, and yeah. And again,
Sensitivity readers all the way.
Yeah.
yeah. Now I've got both of you have sent me some awesome links, and we're going to try this. I've never done this before in here. I have no idea if it's going to work, so I am so
Full
sorry.
faith in you, Jules. Full faith in you. It's all good.
So I'm going to do the best I can. So I've got them ready to go. So I don't mind which one I do first. If the first one works, then the second one will work. So, but it's on YouTube. So what I'm going to do, rather than taking us all off the screen, I'm going to leave us on, but I'm going to mute everyone, and I'm going to play the YouTube that you shared with me. So I hope I've got the right ones as well. So okay, so I'm gonna, if you could mute yourself, actually it's probably easier. If you mute yourself,
Okay, yeah.
I will just stay on for a minute just in case obviously it doesn't work, and I'll mute myself in a sec. I've just come to the Conjecture Speaks. This is by for you, Hades. So I'm just going to unmute that one, and I'm now going to mute myself. So bear with me a moment. You can hear that. I'm just pausing it just for a second. Did you hear any of that?
No, we heard some static and we couldn't see anything.
Oh.
Yeah,
No,
static and no visuals.
I'm not sure if I'm going to get any visuals up. That's the only problem.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Do you want me to try sharing the screen? It looks like I can share my screen and do it.
Yeah, that'd be. Let's
that
try
would
that.
work.
Maybe that if
Okay.
that works for you, Evelyn, that might work for you as well, Hades. Actually.
Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all up for trying new things. I'm really sorry. It wouldn't work. I'm so sorry.
Do you want me to try first, or do you want to go, Hades?
Yeah, go for it.
No,
Go
no,
for it.
you carry on, because I'm not sure I can. So I'm just working off my phone, but you
Okay.
carry on.
All right, I'm gonna share screen. Is that working?
No.
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 Such is it.
Oh, hang on a
is-
second.
sharing.
Oh.
Wait 1 second. Here we go.
Oh,
Yay.
hey, there you go.
Okay, all right. So I think you press play.
All right,
That's all.
am I good to press play?
You're gonna have to teach me how to do that. I don't know how to do that. Yeah, go for it. But I think if we mute ourselves as well, then it will mean that the sound should work.
Marcel took Sarai's hand and placed.
Okay.
As usual, but what she found was completely different.
You're warm.
Not hot, and not at a comfortable 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, but warmer than before.
This is what it does to me. What you do for me. That's light from this. What all vampires crave. What you gave to me.
Sarai gazed curiously at the place where her hand was. She could swear even Marcel's pallid skin had a little more color than usual. Her eyes flickered upward to lock with her lover's. It all made sense. It all clicked into place. She could understand vampires a little more. She leaned in so she could kiss her lover once more, but as the wind shifted around them, Marcel slowly pulled away, her brow furrowed. Sarai leaned in for more, but the look on the vampire's face made her pause.
Is something wrong?
We're being watched.
I thought that was half the fun.
By a witch.
Sarai tensed, her grip on Marcel turning white-knuckled.
Bossy slave?
Maybe. No way to know. I just smell someone not human. And it's not us or another vampire.
Sarai nodded and flexed her hand a little, letting power flow through her glove focus as she held onto Marcel's shirt, channeling her power into it.
Tishmur la.
Protect her. She closed her eyes. Quick spells weren't her forte when she didn't have a comfortable environment to concentrate, but anything could give them an edge. She repeated the spell, changing the word her to me as she held on to her own shirt, which made her skin tingle as the magic took hold. Panting a little from the effort, she nodded at Marcel.
Thank you. That's interesting.
Just something quick. The magic won't hold forever. I'm not that good, so let's get back.
No, I don't want them following us. If they want to confront us, let's give them the opportunity.
Marcel gave her a second quick kiss, then led her around the corner into a dark alley. Sarai had the distinct impression they were about to be mugged and gripped Marcel's hand as tight as she could, anticipation pounding in her chest. Rubber soles landed hard on the pavement behind them, and the pair spun around to see a red-haired young man with glasses, glaring at them with dark blue eyes and aiming an arrow notched to a bow at Marcel.
Let her go,
he said. Marcel raised an eyebrow.
And you are?
your executioner. Let her go, and I'll consider letting you leave with your unlife, leech.
Oh, that's adorable. Really, you're adorable, boy. How old are you?
Old enough to kill you.
He looked at Sarai.
I saw her hurt you. Are you okay?
It's not what you think. You've got this wrong.
Sarai stepped in front of Marcel protectively, realizing what this was about. This was no Vasi, just a normal witch thinking he was protecting his own.
Get the hell out of the way!
No.
His arrow tip burst into flames as he kept it trained on them. Sarai inhaled sharply. Surely someone like Marcel could snatch an arrow out of the air before it became a problem. But if it was a magic arrow, that could pose a genuine threat. Her limited protection spell likely didn't have the strength to block a direct hit.
A fire starter. Vampire hunting all by yourself. How brave. Are you contracted to the Vasi?
He spit at the sound of the name, confirming Sarai's suspicions.
Fuck the Vasi. I don't need a contract to tell me to hunt leeches.
Well, that makes things more complicated.
Why's that?
It means I can't kill you.
She disappeared from behind Sarai and reappeared in front of the bowman. The arrow let fly, and Sarai narrowly avoided a grazing thanks to her protective spell. The flames erupted into a fireball behind her down the alley and flooded the space with heat. Marcel knocked the bow from his hands in a swift move from one hand and stabbed a silver needle into his shoulder with the other. The fire still lingered in trash behind them, smelling something foul, but he wouldn't create any more fire. He shouted in pain and drew a switchblade, but Marcel had his hands in her iron grip, twisting them behind his back and slamming him against the wall, forcing a grunt from him.
You're out of your league, Pyro.
Do it then! Damn monster, do it!
Do what, exactly?
Kill me already. Make it quick.
I've no intention of killing you, though if you keep attacking vampires like this, killing you now would be a mercy.
She hit him hard on the side of the head so that he fell unconscious in her grasp.
Is he all right?
Out cold. Silver needle in his shoulder. But he'll be fine. Let's get him up to Satanta before human cops come running from the explosion.
What a way to end a date.
That was awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was lovely.
I love the images. The images
Yeah,
are
brilliant. Yeah, lovely.
Thanks.
And
Yeah,
it
I
really
worked with an artist to do a book trailer. So for this, I just kind of grabbed a few of the images from that and stuck them into the
That's
passage.
brilliant. Totally brilliant. Yeah, that's great.
it is really, really good. I love the creativity with it as well. And having the different voices really helped you sort of stay on track of who was saying what. And it was more like a screenplay rather than a story.
I've never heard an audiobook done like that
Yeah,
before. That was
it's funny
incredible.
because when I first started writing, I actually started with stage plays. So dialogue to me comes really naturally, and I really enjoy putting together that kind of dialogue. In the book, obviously, you've got dialogue tags and Marcel said and so said and stuff like that. But when you're doing an audiobook with a full cast like that with distinct voices, when you're writing the script for it to give to the actors, you don't really need it as much. You can have it put together a little differently. So if you're following along in the book, it's slightly different than the audio book, but it works better in the audio format.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So it was fun.
Completely brilliant. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And you could really hear the the anger in some of them and sort of like almost the arrogance as well that was being portrayed by some of the characters. So that was really good. Really
Yeah,
good.
I've loved working with the actors. It was such an amazing experience to do.
Now I gotta ask. So is the Pyro character a werewolf? Is that why he's weak to silver?
No, so in the universe, silver nullifies magic. So any magic doesn't matter.
Okay,
who.
gotcha.
So
gotcha.
if you stab a witch with a silver needle, they can't use their magic. If you get a vampire, they're basically as weak as they were when they were first a human. So
interesting. That's
silver
cool
is just a uniform type thing. And then as a little added bonus, they used to make mirrors out of silver, and who doesn't have a reflection when they look in a silver mirror? Vampires.
Cool.
That's
And
cool.
since vampires are undead and have a little bit extra magic than your average witch, silver actually has a more negative effect for them. It burns. It's very uncomfortable. They don't like it.
That's very cool.
So the more magic you've got, the worse silver affects you.
Interesting. That is cool.
I like it when you have like unique twists that are on sort of traditional understanding of a particular theme or character type.
I like doing that too, because like there's a lot I like about traditional vampires and witches, and there's a lot that kind of like I don't really need that. So like the whole being invited thing for vampires, that's a classic. You need an invitation to enter a dwelling. Well, not so much, but if witches are smart, they're going to put a ward around their buildings so that no undead could get in without an invitation, or nobody that they haven't pre-approved. So that's where the myth comes from. So I like taking elements of myth and having the truth be a little different.
That is very cool. And I'm really glad that we got that working. That's amazing. You've just taught me something brand new that I didn't know before. So I'm really, really grateful to you. And it also means that we can see your trailer. So you're very welcome to share your screen to show that. And also Hades as well. That means
I
you
don't know
should be able
what
to
I
hear
should
and
do.
yours too. You're able to share yours if you want to.
If you could do mine, that would be lovely because
I
I'm just working off my phone here.
That's
So
fine. I'm happy to do that. So do you want to do your trailer first, Evelyn, so that we've it kind of is a package, isn't it, with go along with your story?
I'm actually I'm looking at what I should pull up because I have an actual book trailer that is kind of cool, but I also have little character trailers. I think I sent you those, and I think that might be more fun in this context.
Sure, yeah,
You can do whatever you like.
It's got little lines.
This is quite an
Yeah.
interesting little twist on the book slam, isn't it? We don't normally see trailers and
This is
videos.
fun, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I might see if I can sneak my trailer into book at some point.
Ooh.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Adam, you've seen it before.
A couple of times.
Yeah. It's still a work in progress, so I'm open to feedback. So yeah.
All right.
I know, Adam, you've given me some feedback on it, haven't you? So it's I know I need to work on a little bit more. Now, whilst you're looking for that, Evelyn, I'm going to
I've got it.
see.
Oh, you got it? Yeah, let's pop it up. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I got it. All right.
Let's all mute ourselves again, and
I'll do Sarai's little trailer first, and I've got 3 main characters, so I'll just go through them, and they're pretty short.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
okay. Is it working? Yeah.
Good to know the murdering, blood-sucking vampires don't have slaves. I wouldn't want to think you're immoral or something. Do you mind not sucking my blood while I'm trying to have a conversation with you? It's rude.
Very nice. I love it. Like, do you mind? It's rude. Oh, Evelyn, you're muted.
Oh, there we go. Okay. No, Sarai's very sassy. That's my favorite thing about her. So I'll just go through the other 2 real quick.
Sure.
So that we can get to everybody.
I won't abandon you to die when we blow up this building, and I won't kill you now. I never said I was going to let you go. I want to know why you're so... I've tasted witches before. They're better than humans, but you're in a class all your own.
So that's
that had dominatrix kind of things going on there, wasn't there? Very cool.
A little bit. All right. Last one. Let's get this. Okay.
Strength, cunning, and a dash of hedonism. It's gotten me this far. I intend to live forever, and so far, I am succeeding.
That's my main characters.
Hey!
I like that. That's an interesting way of doing it. I really like that. I like.
I think it's even if you don't have an audiobook, it's like you can get an actor to do a little line or something from a specific character and do little trailers. I think it's a fun way to introduce characters.
That's a very
I think that's brilliant. Yeah.
I really like that. Okay, so I'm going to attempt do yours, Hades.
So
Okay.
I'll quickly explain him first, if
Okay.
that's okay. Because
course.
so we've got a trailer for the world as well, which is on the site. But then the conjector is a character, so he's a live character that you can into. The aim is to build him up, so he is our conspiracy theorist. He's kind of like the question from like DC, and he does these podcasts where he breaks the fourth wall, so he's talking directly to you. And the aim is to build up these podcasts and then actually have him appear on shows. So you wouldn't see him, it would be his logo and stuff. But I wanted to have this fourth wall break, and then I want people to try and figure out who the bloody hell he is. As these kind of episodes of his go on. I will say it has the old company name on the logo when it starts for the conjector, because we just need to update that, because we used to be ASAP Comics UK, and then we realized I was the only one in the UK now, so there's no point calling it ASAP UK. So we changed it to ASAP Imagination. So it has the old logo, but yes, it's the conjector.
Nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got your links on the banner. Evelyn, what I've done, because yours were more direct links, I actually put them in the YouTube chat, which would have come up on all of the different social media platforms that we're using. So, whereas because you've got websites, I thought that you can have them on the screen, which is just a different way of doing it. And if you want them put in the chat, I'm happy to, in the live chat. But Evelyn, yours was going to be a little bit long to put on the banner because it was the whole website. So
it's got the whole YouTube.
Yeah, so I hope that's okay. I hope that you feel that that's sufficient.
No
so I'm gonna do the best I can. So it's present, and then click on the YouTube. Is that correct? Is that what you did?
You hit present, share screen. It'll pull up the screen sharing tips. Hit the blue button at the bottom that says share screen again, and then you click which tab you want to share.
Oh my God, you have taught me something I have never known before. Okay, that is amazing.
You're welcome.
Right, okay. So, okay, hang on, let me just make sure that this is correct. Okay. So, present, share screen, conjector speaks. Okay, all right. Can you see that? Okay, here we go.
To you out there who want the truth, and to you, the mindless sheep, I am the conjector. I see what you don't want to see, and I'm here to pull the blindfold from your eyes. It's time to wake up and accept the facts. You're all too busy pretending. Ooh, we survived the event. We were saved. Everything's perfectly fine now. No, it's not. That's just bullshit. The fact is, we've not been fine for years. Because many of you refuse to see what's staring you in the face. Let me break it down for you. Let me focus your eyes on what's really happening. We all know about the event. How could you not? Monsters appearing from nowhere and ripping apart central London. I mean, you'd have to be a serious fucking moron to miss that news. Our very own heroes failed to defeat them. It looked as though all hope would be lost. Then, boom! From the heavens, like a ray of light, comes the luminous. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not slating the luminous. I'm as grateful as you that they turned in. I was shitting my pants along with the rest of you. I mean, the things I saw. Well, that's a story for another time. I'll be covering them and the cult. Oops. I mean, Church of the Luminous. Point is, I don't deny that these things happened. I don't deny that these monsters weren't real, and I don't deny that I didn't actually shit my pants. I don't deny that brave people didn't try their best to fight the good fight, and we should honour them until the end of time. I don't deny that the loss of life was immense because it was devastating. What I do deny is that everything is perfectly fine now. Because it's not. What it is this. We were so wrapped up and so grateful that those monsters were defeated that we lapped up every spoonful of crap we were fed from the propaganda, news and government from that point on. We even said, this crap is so tasty. Thank you for this delicious crap sandwich. Well, I'm not swallowing one more bite. Now I'm ready for the comments section to get filled with abuse. I expect it, if I'm honest. Oh, this guy is a nut. Someone needs to shut this guy up. Don't worry. I'm ready for what you want to say. You're still eating crap. And therefore you're talking too. But ask yourself this. If everything is fine, and if we should celebrate, then why are people still missing? And where could they possibly be? Oh, there's so much more to this than meets the eye. So many levels. And I intend to cover every single one. I've been the conjector. And you've been blinded from the truth. I'll see you. But you won't see them.
Well, that was amazing.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, went straight into efforts. So, that was amazing.
Thank you. Do you know what? I was really lucky with the actor that we got on board for that as well, and we had a lot of fun making that. And we're going to go ahead. Like I say, we concentrated on bringing the comics forward first and building that up a bit more. But the response that we've had to the conjecture is people want more conjecture. So he's coming back strong in 2023.
That's exactly what somebody said in the YouTube chat. I can't wait for more conjecture videos. Yeah, that's what somebody said.
Yeah. No, it was a lot. It was a lot of fun making that, and again, it's what I want it to be. Break the fourth wall, have fun with that, and then, like I say, have him on podcast, and then you can literally talk to him as if it's part of this world that already exists.
That would be cool. We could have him on a guest on our show.
Exactly what I mean. Yeah, you could have the conjecture on book plan and talk about him as if this is really happening. Yeah, I like the mystery.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Thank you.
Very, very good. So one of the things that comes across in that one is he doesn't sound friendly. Like there's no. I can't work out whether he's trying to help or trying to destroy. Well, a little bit of both.
Yeah, he's based on a friend of mine who I will not name because I don't want him to think I'm saying anything bad about him. But he's based off a friend of mine who is hugely passionate when it comes to the things that he is passionate about. But sometimes that passion, you kind of go, all right, wasn't me, you know. And he'll go, no, it wasn't you, but, and you go, even though it wasn't me, I'm now sorry, you know. So it's that line of when is passion, when does it cross that line into anger? So it's that idea. And I love my friend very much, and you know, I'm always happy to speak to him, but he's quite self-aware as well. He knows that he gets shouted. You know, he's probably, if he's watching this now, he's going, me, damn. Whoops. But yeah, I want that. And again, it's that idea that he's so frustrated with people. But then the idea of the mystery is, does that tell you where he's based? So is he behind the scenes? Can he see more than you? Is the character that's sitting this side of the fence, or is he sitting this side? And then it's up to you. It's almost like an adult. Where's Wally? Where's Waldo? You know, it's where is the conjecture? Where does he fit? And can you find him? You know.
That's cool. I like we were talking about earlier about characters that are very complex, that don't have, you know, purely good intentions or purely bad intentions.
Yeah.
You've got characters with complex personalities. You've got a bit of mystery there, intrigue.
Yeah, no, I love it. He's great.
Now, would you be happy for me to share my my trailer? I'm open to feedback with it.
Yeah, I'd love
Genuinely
that.
open to feedback.
We'd love to see it. Of
Go for
course.
it.
I haven't shown it on here before, and I just
Here.
I'm interested because Adam, I know you've seen it and you've given me some feedback, which I am taking on board and I'm thinking about. And you know, I'm interested to hear objective point of views from other people as well. Well, yours was objective, yours was completely purely.
No.
So I was just making sure it's very clear. That's not what I meant. But it's nice to hear like feedback from a range of different people. Now I'm trying to find it, and it's just like, where's it gone? Maybe it's not. Oh, is it not on here? Oh no! Did I? Oh no! Oh no! It's disappeared. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's not on here, so I can't share it with you at the moment.
All that build up.
I know.
So ready.
I'm going to see if I can find it just very quickly. Oh, I can. There we go. So I can just upload it very quickly. Yeah. It obviously got. Sometimes things get deleted by mistake on here, because obviously we're not the only ones who use this particular account. Because Indy, who's the guy who owns the Book Slam, he does a whole range of other things as well, and he uses sometimes he deletes things, and you know, I think I've deleted stuff of his by mistake as well, but it's not problem. But yeah, so this is the trailer for book 2. So for this one of Shadow and Swords, and it's basically I'm fascinated by war. That sounds really dark. I don't like war, but it fascinates me nonetheless. And so war
I get what you mean.
Yeah, I'm interested in the psychology behind it. So like I've read all of Sun Tzu's The Art of War, and you know that's one of my go-to books to understand it better. But I've also got like infantry tactics, and my husband was in the army for 22 years, so I like plow him for information as well. So the actual thing of war, going to war, and then the after effects, so it is an interesting.
No, it is.
So okay, so hopefully this is the right one. Here we go.
Like a crack in the wall, you saw through the letters, you counted the cards. I had a young boy's heart. You held it in your hands right from the start. You say, hold me hard before you go. Hold me 'cause I need you so. Babe, don't let them break you I've been out for days. A soul without a soldier, a camping our ways. It couldn't get much worse. Living through the terrors, either blessed or you're cursed. You say, hold me hard before you go. Hold me 'cause I need you so. Babe, don't let them break you down. Don't let them wear you out. Kiss my mouth before you leave. Tell me that you think of me. Babe, don't let them break your heart. Tell them it was mine from the start.
There you go.
That's brilliant. No, there's certain punches in the chorus when it hit with the imagery. I was, and you get that kind of like little goosebumpy thing. Yeah, I love that. That was great.
Thanks.
The song's really cool. I like it.
Yeah, very much.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I it's interesting to hear feedback on it because it's obviously, everything that we do is quite personal, isn't it? So
I
was
feel like the song thing.
Sorry, go on.
It stands out from other book trailers that way because a lot of book trailers just have some generic epic music that is royalty free from somewhere and some text, and then you have an actual song. I like that.
Okay. I was trying to make it emotional rather than war, because
Yeah.
for some reason, like
I like that. I think that works.
thank you.
Yeah, that was really good. I really enjoyed that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, nice feedback. Is there anything you think I could do to improve?
I don't think so.
Maybe
I think it was
the text.
I thought it flowed.
You like
the overall flow is good. I think that could pop a little bit more. Like I was getting so distracted by the images that the text was getting lost a little bit.
That's
So maybe make
actually
it bigger, make it on longer.
That was the exact same thing I said. The thing is, I had Jules send me the sentence afterwards, the words, and it's an awesome sentence that is super inspiring and really makes you want to read the book. But it's hard to keep track of the sentence with the music going in the background. So I just think the words need to
like if you ask me what it said
or stay longer. Right. We want you want the people to know what the words are in that sentence. That is an awesome sentence.
Yeah, maybe don't put it at the bottom. Maybe like along the side so that it stands out a little bit more.
Ooh,
and you could, like, if you play around with the settings of it, I don't know what kind of program you're using, but you could like have a shadow behind the words or like a lightly faded black box or something to make it stand out. So like people are reading the text there and not being distracted by all the images and the song and all that all at once. That way your sentence stands out.
That's a good idea. I'll have a look and see. I'll have a play around with it and see. I don't know if I can do that, but I'll see if I can find out.
It might just be
if it helps, I use a program called Wondershare, or I can't talk. Wondershare Filmora. There's like a one-time fee, so it's not one of those subscription things, which I personally like, and that's what I use to make videos. So I think they've got a decent amount of options for text that you might be able to use there, and other aspects of making videos, of course.
Would you mind sharing that in the chat for me? I've never heard of that one before. That would be awesome. Adam, what were you going to say?
Maybe just have the words stay on the screen until the next part of it's going to pop on. Like have the words, and then as soon as they drop off, the next words come up, and the next words drop off, and the next words come up. Like maybe just have it stay on longer, so we're tracking the sentence a little easier. Because I want people to read the sentence. It's inspiring. Like I said, it feels like the emotion of the song you've got there. So it goes really well, but it is easy to lose the words.
Yeah, no, you're right. I agree. I will look into doing that for sure. Thank you, and thank you for allowing me a time to sort of like share some of my work that I've been doing. I really appreciate it. Now, we are drawing very close to the end of our show.
Yeah,
absolutely. I just want to say a massive thank you to people who follow us on social media. Do subscribe to the channel if you're interested. Do like the program as well. It really helps get the word out. And I just want to say a massive thank you to both of our wonderful guests today. It's been an absolute pleasure having both of you on today.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. We would love to have you back on again.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. So if you're, we're not, how would you describe us, Adam? We're not uptight.
We're very casual and welcome. Yeah, we're casual and welcome.
Authors.
If you know another author who you think would like to be on the show, send them our way. Or if you're an author that's just watching the show right now and you'd like to be on it, please send us a message. We'd love to have you on. So
it's the pleasure is about just meeting other authors and exploring new topics, exploring each other's work, and just support and help, and a friendly critique if necessary, and that kind of thing. And I think that's really important. It helps us.
Yeah, several of us have read works in progress to get feedback from people. Yeah, so that's definitely part of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well, if I could, after we've off air, if I could grab you two for a minute as well, just to have a quick chat off air about something, because we've got something.
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course.
We've got another project. It's out, but I know we're low on time. But I kind of want to talk to you two about it personally also. So.
You're very welcome. Yeah, absolutely fine. So just don't disappear off. Just stay on.
No.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say thank you very much to my wonderful co-host. Oh, go on, sorry, Adam.
I was just saying, this has been fabulous. Yeah,
it has been a wonderful time. And Adam, you're going to share the Right House Discord.
Oh yes, I'll send the Discord to both of you.
Wonderful, and you don't feel obliged to join, but if you are interested in joining, come and join us. It's slowly developing into a quite nice community, and it's nice to just keep in touch with people. And with that, I'm going to say a very final thank you very much, farewell, and good night.